So we will see what is Databricks Asset Bundles and how to create an asset bundle from scratch and how VS Code extension helps us to deploy the bundle smoothly, right? So to give some background, Databricks Asset Bundles, right, is helping, as the name suggests, it's a wrapper which ensures that we are doing CI/CD right all within Databricks. So it bundles your code, your workflows, pipelines, apps, everything in a single bundle folder, and it will ensure that the bundle is deployed or it is in sync with your development environment. Say you develop the code in your VS Code, then later if you want to deploy it as a workflow, right, then you can easily very well deploy the changes in one click, right? So unlike traditional CI/CD options, right, where in Databricks if you deploy a job, there are options for people to edit the job, but with asset bundles, it will give you a read-only copy so that you never can edit the job. And it also can pack the pipeline, right, like the contents associated with the job, say notebooks, everything in a particular folder, so that we have a complete production ready job, right, in a proper organized way. So now let us see how to create a Databricks asset bundle, right? So for creating Databricks asset bundle, first I have created a branch, DAB testing plane in my repository, and what we will do is we will use the extension. So you have an extension like Databricks, right? So if you see here, you can click on Control Shift X. So you will have this Databricks extension. So just install this extension and also install your extension for GitHub Action, because later we will deploy a CD pipeline where we deploy from dev to prod environment. So install that. And apart from that, I have my Git enabled in my VS Code so that I can check in the code. So now let us see. So first up is bundles. So here click on create a new project. So it will ask for authentication. So in terms of authentication, right? So right? We have this Databricks.config file. So with that .config file, you can store your secrets, right? You can store the host and the token. So I have already made that setup. So once you click on that, it will ask whether the folder where it has to create the asset bundles. So the root folder, I will go with whatever it is giving default. So now once you have this, right, so it will ask for a couple of options, right? So let us create a default Python template and let us give the name as demo YouTube, right? So this will be the folder, and we need a sample notebook, and we don't need a pipeline, and we don't need to package anything. We will use the serverless compute. So let us click all these options, right? So once you click on these options, I think it has done everything. You can close this folder. Then you can go. If you go here, it will create a dab plane bundle, right? This folder is created now. So note, right, the same thing can also be done using your command line. So Databricks bundle in it, if you click on this, so it will again are the same, but with VS coded it is little bit easy, right? Explore the folder. So you have this demo YouTube, and under this you have resources which contains the job. So here it has deployed a dummy job, and as the name suggests, it also creates a notebook. This notebook contains a normal code, like a default code, right? And then it has this internal your scratch folder for creating any exploration notebook for your exploration case study. Say this code will not be deployed, and you have this git ignore, and here you can see, right, the whatever inside the scratch folders are basically not deployed, right? And see, now we have resources separately, code separately, right? Now we have to connect these two, right? So that is where the Databricks YAML will come. So this is the main YAML file, which is the key file, right? So it has a bundle which has the name, and as part of this bundle, what and all we need to deploy. So we have to deploy everything under resources folder, or if there are any subdirectories under resources folder, right? So all those will be deployed. So if you see here under resources, right, you have both YAML files as well as you have the source folder, right? So that needs to be deployed, right? And whenever we deploy, it creates one like two environments. So one is a dev and another one is a prod, right? And by default, right, the dev environment with the more development, right, it adds a prefix of the username who is adding this. But in real time scenarios, right, we might not need this. So let us comment this line, and then what we have is we have the workspace where it has to deploy. Similarly, we have a prod and we have a mode production, and inside this, right, we have all the folders, right, like where it has to deploy the bundle, right, and what kind of permission we need to have, right. So now this is a plain bundle. Now let us make it a little bit more interesting, right. So to make it more interesting, right, what we have done is like I have created already one bundle, right. Let me copy some of the code files from there, right. So here, let me go to source, let me open this notebook, and let me bring this to another window. Move to then move left. So so this is the one which you see on left side, right? You have a notebook, and then let me also copy the resources, right? And then let me also copy the YAML on the left side, right? So now let me go to the right side and let me open our existing demo files, right? So we have the notebook. Let me move it to this side. Okay, so let me move. So what I have done is, right, I already have created a folder, right, in our Databricks catalog. I have already created I have already created a for the demo purpose, right. I have created a couple of environments. So you have dab dev and dab prod, and these are the tables, right, where we will insert the data. So if you see here, we have the dev table which has some 10 rows, right. It has the ID column. So what we will do is we will try to mark up this, right. So let us create certain so parameters, right, and let us see how we can basically overwrite, right, your code across environment, right. So the idea here is, see, we have a dev environment and we are writing to a dev table, and we have a prod environment where we are deploying again to the prod, and it will deploy to the prod table, right. So this is on the notebook side. Now let us say we have this notebook ready. Now we again need to basically add this parameters, right, to the job. So if you go to the job here, the job on the right side, if you see at the bottom, I added two parameters, right. So these are the parameters, right. So if you see here, let us add those parameters again. One benefit of uh, using the VS code is, see, you will get the auto completion, right. If you see here, right, you will get the parameters and auto completion. So anyhow, let me paste, right. So if you see here, right, now one thing which you can see is, right, there are a couple of things which are interesting, right. Number one is, if you see here, I have given an input, and then we have to give a default value. So for dev, we have these variables, right? The system variables will be there in bundles. So bundle dot target, right? You will have another things as well. Bundle dot name, right? So these are like similar to your workflow dynamic variables. You have this specific variables which can be used to basically substitute the value, right? So here, when we deploy with the dev in the Databricks YAML, if you see here, right, we have dev and prod. So when we deploy it with dev, the dev value will go and sit. So our DB name will be dab underscore dev, and that matches with your name here, right? Now, then next thing is you have this second one, right? So we have again another one variable, and we have said, right, there is a variable, right. So this variable, right, we have to define somewhere. So where should we define? So we have to go to databricks.yaml. So in this YAML, right, you can declare variables at multiple places. So one is at the global level. So if you see here, right, see, it is automatically coming for the like. With auto completion, right. So now once it is defined here, right, when we deploy the job automatically, right, this variable can be referenced there. So if I go to my other YAML, if you see here, this value has been defined. And in the dev environment, right, we did not give any value, right? And another one thing which is very good is, say, once you deploy the job, right, maybe you need to standardize that, right, and you need to add some tags or these things, right? So those can be added with this presets. So this presets can add your DAGs. And let's say you want to add permissions, right? Say in dev you can give full permissions, right, for a user to edit this job, whereas in prod you have to basically give only limited permission. So when we move to prod, we just need to copy the same and then paste it here, and we need to make it as can view, right? And then once you have this, let's say in dev, right, automatically, right, the name dev will be passed, right, for the variable, right, and in prod the prod value will be passed, right? However, let's assume, right, you want to basically change the value, meaning instead of test variable, right, instead of having the default value, the default value is basically this one, right? A default value, let's assume, right, we want to have a value which needs to be overridden, right, later when we deploy. So for that you can have a variable section, and you can have the test variable, and you just have a description, right? Don't pass a default value, right? Now save this, right? So once you save this, let us go to Databricks, like let us see the status, right? So Databricks bundle, right, and then we can put the command plan. So what it will do is, first we have to go to the folder where we have like deployed the bundle. So dab underscore dab underscore bundle YouTube, and here we have to use the Databricks bundle plan. So what it will say is basically, it will say that, so if you see here, right, it will give you the things which it needs to create, and it will give the plan of how it will deploy, right? So now let us see the another one command, Databricks bundle validate, right? So this validate will give you, so if you see here, right, we have dev environment and then the prod environment, right? And since we have not given any value of target, it will take the default. So how will it know the default environment is? If you see here, we have kept a default true, right, for dev. So it validates the dev environment and it says, right, the validation is okay, right? And you have another one command which is Databricks bundle summary. So bundle summary. If you give this command, so it will give you exact picture, right? So we have currently only one job, but it is not yet deployed, right? Now let us see if we can deploy the job, right? So for deploying the job, you can use the command so, so we have to click on this, and once you click on this, you will see the option to deploy the bundle. So click on deploy. So if you see here, it is deploying everything and then it's syncing the source code. Development is complete now. And if you go to your Databricks, if you go to workspace, under your bundle folder, you will see this, you will see the dev, and you will see the files which has all the files, right, which we had in the local, right? And then you have this state folder which keeps the metadata, right, and it keeps the states of your data, right? So this will map your resources which are getting deployed, which is the branch it is getting deployed, right? All this metadata is kept, and the deployment.json, right? So this has your versions, right? Whenever you make a change, it is all tracked now, right? Now let us go to the job folder. So if you go to the job, if you see here, now there is a job which has been added, right, with this demo YouTube, right? Now this is the job which is added, and if you see here, it is connected to asset bundle. So if you try to edit a task, it will not allow you. See, It is not allowing you to edit any job. So this way, right, you can preserve the job and nobody can edit the job, right? Now let us go to this one, right, and let us trigger the job. So for triggering the job, you have multiple ways. One is a command line way. So for doing it in command line way, you will basically give Databricks bundle, right, and you have this run command. If you give this run command, right, so you have the option to basically run a job, right, by specifying a id, right. But however, we are using VS Code extension. So here, if you see here, you can click on this. So once you click on this run, it will basically run the job, right, and it will run the job. It will deploy and run the job. So if we are since it is already deployed, it will just check the state. Since nothing has changed, it will like run the job. So if you see here, right, it has ran the job and then it is showing the status here also, right? And the same can be checked in the back end also. So if you go here, if you go to runs, you will see the very first refresh would have been scheduled now. I think it is taking some time. So let me refresh this page. Yeah. If you see here, right, it is basically running the job, right? And you could see that the variables are passed correctly. So if you see here, right, dab underscore dev, right, it is passed because of that bundle dot name placeholder which is getting substituted, right. Now while this is running, let's assume, right, okay, it has succeeded. Now let us go back. Right now we need to say deploy it to prod, right. So for deploying it to prod, let me go to the terminal. I think let me create one more terminal, or let me create a new terminal, right. So here, so here, so once you have the dab demo YouTube, right? Once you come here, let us do the same, right? Databricks bundle validate. So before deploying anything, we have to validate. So now we are deploying it to prod. So target prod, right. So once you give a target prod, it will give you all the things, right, which has been basically missing. So if you see here, right, there are a couple of errors are there, right. So number one, if you see here, right, like we have defined the variable, right, the test variable, right. Once you define at the top level, again if you define the same variable at a particular like environment level, right, like dev or prod, once you like again define it, right, since I have not given any default value, it is complaining that the default value is not set, so we have to use it. And second one is a known thing, right. See, I have to demonstrate this, I have just put, right, can view permission, but however, right, it is saying it is already, right, I am the person who is owning this bundle, right, so I will have manage permission. So that is what it is saying. So we can check this job, right. Now how can we basically fix this, right. So now let's assume, right, I need to try like substitute this variable, right. So for substituting this variable, what we have to do is we have to basically add a, like multiple ways are there. One is you can embed in this YAML, or you can send a JSON file. So let us do the JSON file approach. So we're doing this JSON, right. I have already done that in your other bundle which I had. So here, if you see under the bundle dot Databricks portal, under bundle, you will have prod. Inside that prod, right, you have to create this variable overrides that JSON, right. So this file you need to create basically. So you can let us create this file. So let us go to this folder under our YouTube. So demo, you go to bundle, you go to prod, and inside prod, right, let us create this file, right. So create a new file, variable, hyphen overrides dot JSON. Okay, so let us create this, let us paste, right. So now we have substituted the value from this one. Now let us run the validate again. So if you run the validate again, See, now if you run the validate again, right, you couldn't, you will not see that other warning, right? So only one warning is found, and that warning is specifically because of that manage permission, right? Now we have the setup ready. Let us basically deploy to prod, right? So to deploy it to prod, let me show with the command line since I have shown already uh, with the extension. So Databricks deploy hyphen uh, T, and then we can put the prod, right? Because we have to deploy the prod environment. Sorry, Databricks bundle deploy hyphen T prod. So again, now it is syncing the prod files, right, to the prod folder. You can see the name prod has been given, right? So you could see, and after some time, right, you will get also the tasks which are getting deployed. So it is deploying the workflow. I think the deployment is complete now. Now let us see here, right? So if you go to this one, let us refresh this. So once we refresh this, we will basically see the dev environment and the prod environment details. So if you go to Databricks, if you see here, we will have two values now, right? So you will have a prod job also, right? See, we have the okay. So let me change the prefix and rerun. I think I have run with the dev prefix. So let me quickly change it to prefix prod, and let me run the deploy again. Right. So it will look for the changes. Right. Once it looks for changes, it will go and redeploy the job again. Now after we redeploy the job, now the deployment is complete. Now let me refresh. So once I refresh it, see, we could see the prod YouTube job, right? Now let us trigger this job. So in order to trigger this job, you will use Databricks bundle run hyphen T prod, right? Now it will ask which job it has to run. So we have only one job. Let us give enter. So once you click on run, so it will run that job, and you could see here, right? The same has been available in your bundle explorer on the VS code also, and you could see the variables, right? The variables is coming from this JSON, right? You could clearly see that easily, right? So now let us see the deployment, right? So I think it is running. So the other things is noticed as part of preset, right? We had set the tags, right? So you could see the pipeline and they were like trigger is passed, I mean trigger is unpassed, and then your prefix has been added, and I think the tag has been added as in like development, but it should be prod, but that's fine. So if you see here, right, the prod job, you will see the tags which are getting added, right? You could see the tags. Let me show the tags. Yeah, so the tags are getting added successfully, and we have the schedules, and its schedule is triggered every day, right, at a particular time, right? So this is one part of the problem, right? Now let us say, right, you need to do a CI/CD. So for doing CI/CD, right, first we need to deploy this to Git. So go to our Git, commit the changes, right? So once you click on commit, so these are the files added. So you can put YouTube demo files added, right? So once you commit this, sync the changes, right? Now, so in order to do a deployment, right, CD based deployment to prod, what we have to do is in GitHub, right, you have something known as GitHub Action. So if you go to GitHub Action, so they have given a predefined GitHub Action workflow, right? So let me high level explain this, right? So you have the name, which is production environment, and the concurrency of your job, and it will give you couple of GitHub actions, right? Which say Databricks, there is a say GitHub action to set up the CLI, right? So these are some pre-built scripts which enable you to set up the things on the background, right? And the main thing to note here is, see here, whenever a pull commit has been made to main branch, it will basically trigger this workflow and it will deploy the bundle, right, in the prod. Once you deploy the pipeline, maybe you have to do a dry run. So that is the second step. So to the there are two jobs are there. So one is your deploy bundle, so which runs that on a Ubuntu environment, right? And then second is a validate thing, so that has couple of steps. So first it will check out the code, it will set up that CLI, right, which is needed for running it, and it needs to get the token, right, for you to deploy that, right? So and the bundle has to, right, dev and prod, that are the two environments we have kept, right? So here we are deploying the prod. So now this is the basic one. Now let us customize for our case, right? So in order to customize it, already I have created a GitHub action. So it will be under .github under workflow. You will have this action.yaml. So if you see this action.yaml, right? See, in our case, we are basically having the name as prod deployment, right? And these are done. But however, we don't have a scheduled, right? We are running from a different branch, right? We are not running it on the main branch. So this workflow dispatch, what it will do is basically whenever you want to run something manually, it allows you to manually trigger from the UI, right? And we have two environment, right? Like dev and prod. So we are going to deploy the production. So for this, we took the name of this is deploy bundle, and then this will run it in environment production, and it will have these steps, right? Step one, it has to check out the code, and step two, right, we are checking, right? So in this case, we are having the content in, we have it in dab youtube, right? That is our folder. So let me copy that folder, dab demo youtube. So we have to use it in dab demo underscore youtube, and we need to have our working directory, right, for the bundle is in under dab demo youtube, right? Now where should we pass this token? So for say passing this token, we have to create something known as environment in GitHub. So if you go to GitHub, if you go to settings, you will have something known as environment. So once you have an environment, I already have created a production environment. So under that, you have the secrets. So you can add an environment secret like this, right? So you can give ABC and put a value. So for example, I have created the token, I have kept that token here, right? The best practice is basically we will have a very less privileged service principal and use a token here, so that we'll just do the deployment alone, right? And once it deploys, right, we can basically like do the test run, right? Now let us do the check-in here, right? Since I'm using this youtube folder, let me like change that, and even for validate, right, we have to run it from that youtube folder, right? It is basically this, and when we run it, we have to run the job. So that job name is again, right, we it has asked that, right? So if you click on this run hyphen t, right, it will ask for your job, right? So it gives you a job id, so you have to copy this and then paste it here, because we have to run that particular this one, right, the particular job. So now we have made this change, let us check in this code, right? So github actions and commit changes for github actions. So now we have to think, we have to put the changes. So once it is pushed, let us go to the github site, right? So you could see here, you can click on actions. So once you click on actions, right, so we have already created an action. So let us click on run workflow. So under this we have a couple of things, right? So we have to use this testing plane, and we have to click on run workflow. So once you click on run workflow, it will trigger a deployment. So now if you see here, right, it is deploying the code. So you can click here, you can go to the logs, right? And it is deploying the resource, right? And post deployment, it will do a trigger, it will do a run, and it is basically running that, and it will let you know, right, whether it is done or not. So the second job basically will run the Databricks demo YouTube, right? Now, if you see here, right, it has triggered this job. If you go here, you will see one more run, right? So this run comes from basically your GitHub action. So how we can check that is one more way is if you see here, right? I have substituted the value from CLI, right? So in GitHub Actions, right? If you see our actions code, we have another options to run, right? The variable, right? So if you see here, I have basically substituted the variable through command line. So there are two ways you can basically do the variable substitution, right? One is in the YAML file, another one is in a JSON file, and here, right, to show you the other way, see it is substituted from CLI. So this will ensure that the pipeline is running from your GitHub action and not from local, right? Now this is all done, right? We are able to successfully deploy. The next question what we will come to you is, right, how will you basically deploy something, right? If say I assume I already have a job, right? So let me go there. So we already have, let's assume, right, we already have a job. So if you see here, right, there is already one data loader job is there. So assume this job we have to maintain as a bundle going forward, right? So you have to copy this job id, go to your bundle, right? Now Databricks bundle generate existing double hyphen existing job id. Hmm, sorry, Databricks bundle job generate job double hyphen existing job id, right? So once you run this command, if you see here, it has added those, right? Again, if you see the changes here, right, it added the data loader.yaml and it also added this definitions, right? These are basically added. Now we commit this, right? So once you commit the changes, added existing YAML existing jobs or bundle. So you click on commit and then you're seeing the change, right? Now we have basically committed this, right? Now let us deploy this, right? So for deploying this, if you deploy by default, it will create a new job. So we have to tell Databricks that bundle that we are need to deploy this to an existing job, right? So Databricks bundle deployment, and you will say bind. So what you have to bind? You have to bind basically this job, right? So for that you will basically use. Let me switch it to dev. So how to get that key, right? So once you basically have that, so if you see here, right, we have this one more job, right? Dev data loader, right? So this data loader is the job which we have to basically bind, right? So for binding this, right, we need to know the existing job id as well as your uh, resource, right? So data loader is the job, so we have to bind the data loader job here to the existing job id. So if you click on this, so if you have done everything correctly, so it is running that in the backend. And if you see here, it will show you all the changes, right, which has been done. So let me rerun again. So it will say what and all files it is changing. So let us give yes. So once you give yes, so the bundle has been basically synced. And if you go to our bundle, and then if you go to the dev, and if you go to your so if you see here, right, it is getting the snapshots of your JSON, right? So it basically maintains the snapshots of the files what it want to deploy, right? So now Once you basically have this, now let us say Databricks bundle summary. So now, once you run this command, see, it is basically saying that this job is already tied up to this particular 295 job, right? So now just let us run Databricks bundle deploy, right? Sorry, Databricks bundle, yeah, deploy, right? Hyphen T dev. That's it. Done. So now it will deploy, and once it deploys, you could see the changes here, right? It is updating your this one also, your snapshots also, saying that it has added few more files, right? So if you see here, the data loader job is also added now. So this is how it maintains the snapshot. And now if you go to the backend, you could see the same job, right? This is the one which is already there. And if you see here, right, we have these options. So let us refresh this. So once you refresh this, right, see, it says that it is connected to Databricks bundle. So that's all I had to summarize. Right, what we have to do is, first we have to install few extensions. One is the Databricks extensions, and then you have the GitHub action extensions for GitHub Actions, and you have your GitHub for your source control. Now step one is you have to generate a new project. For generating a new project, you can click here, come here, and then you can say create a new project. So this will initialize a new project using the credentials. And once you have created this, then you will get a default directory, and in that default directory you can customize the YAML. So for customizing YAML, you can customize couple of things. One is you can customize your dev and prod environments with their prefix. So in case if you're using the same environment, right, you can basically use that. And apart from that, you have some options known as variables. So there are two types of variables. One, a few are man-made, like are custom variables. So this custom variables will basically allow you to set some custom variables which needs to be changed between dev and prod. And additionally, in your workflow, right, whenever you have a parameter, you can basically also use the variables, right, which are basically part of their default variable, right? So bundle dot target will change it to dev and prod values, right? Once you do this, then you can use the deploy command to deploy the bundle. And you have commands like summary, and you have commands like validate. So validate will validate the JSON or the YAML. Summary will basically summarize the current state. And you use the deploy command to deploy. And when you deploy, you can substitute the variables in multiple ways. One way is basically through command line, and another one way is basically through your JSON file. We have to create this variable override that JSON, and this will basically keep this parameter, and then you can change it from both the places. And we also see we had a GitHub Actions. So in that action, basically we have successfully deployed a pipeline from dev to prod, right? And we can also validate that by triggering it once, right? And additionally, additional benefit is, right, it maintains the metadata, it maintains the things which it is tracking. So that, right, it will basically always ensure that the code is in sync, right? And when it deploys incrementally from where it left. So if you see the plan now, if I give Databricks bundle plan, it will, even if you deploy now, right, it will not deploy anything because it is all in sync, right? So if you give this Databricks bundle plan, it will just give back a comment stating that, right, see, nothing has changed, right? So it will just, if you redeploy also, it will not do anything. So that's all I had for this video. Please do like, share, and subscribe.